Hello everyone, thank you for listening to the latest episode of the Indian Startup Show. It's been a while, but I'm back with a bang. It's a tough job market out there, folks. On today's episode, we have an expert to guide us through it. I'm joined by Sarabjeet Sachar, founder of Aspiration Jobs. He has a passion for coaching professionals in areas such as career growth, career development, job search strategies, and interview techniques. So in this exciting episode, he shares valuable insights on crafting a compelling CV, what to include and what to avoid, explores the intricacies of salary negotiation, provides tips on answering questions like why should I hire you and where do you see yourself in 3 years' time, gives great advice for first-time graduates with no work experience, and how to deal with those gaps in your CV. The episode is packed with invaluable information, so sit back, relax and enjoy the show. Thank you. Hello Sarabjeet, thank you for coming on the Indian Startup Show today.
Thank you, Neil. I'm so excited. My pleasure.
Please tell the listeners what you do.
I am basically offering career coaching. My specialization is navigating somebody's career, ensuring that the person starts accelerating his career pace, his career growth. So I become like a objective mentor to them. I listen to them. Problem if he has joined a new company, whether in the first 3-4 months he's not been able to navigate that well, or if he's looking at a career transition into another industry or into another role, I would help these people navigate this successfully. My specialization is one-to-one coaching.
Let's say there's a web developer who's got very strong technical skills but doesn't fit the culture. Is it more important to have a culture fit rather than a technicals fit?
So it's very important that we have both, because the domain skills of a web designer, you might be the best. But in terms of, say, skills which could be collaborative skills, skills which are adaptability, skills which are communication, skills which are stakeholder management, all these which require a lot of soft skills. If they are not present in that best web designer, he will still not be coming up to the mark. So I would give equal weightage to the fitment in terms of culture, where a lot of your soft skills or transferable skills play a role as compared to the domain skills. So you might be the best, but if you're not good at collaborating, you're not good with communication, you're not good with expressing, then there needs to be a different kind of a fine-tuning if somebody like that has to be hired.
Let's talk CV resume advice then. You must have seen a lot of CVs. What are the do's and don'ts? What are people doing wrong?
So I've come across resumes. You won't believe it, Neil. There was one resume I saw which was of 13 pages. And I literally met the gentleman. I said, come and meet me. So when I met him, his resume was 13 pages. And when I asked him, how come you've got a resume of 13 pages? He started elaborating right from, every detail, and it came out verbatim that the same thing, the way he was speaking, he had put exactly the same thing in his resume. I told him, do you think a 13-page resume somebody will read? And he was a senior guy with experience of about 21 years. So I said, he's saying, how do I put my 21 years experience into a 2-pager? I said, a resume's purpose is only to attract a recruiter or a prospective employer to read your resume and get excited to meet you. It is not to get you a job. It's like going for the interview, but whatever you're going to say in the interview, you already mentioned in the resume. Nobody's going to read it. Some of the don'ts that are there in the resume, that don't have your resume beyond 2 pages or 1 page. Ideally, it has to be something which is got certain parts which are very important. So some of the don'ts will be, don't have your resume beyond 2 pages. Don't use language which is only machine-led, which is only AI-led. Use your personal language, which should bring out your domain skills, also certain keywords, but at the same time, it should reflect your authentic self. That's very, very important in your resume. So I advise people that you write your own resume. What we do is, if I have to do a kind of a review, I will only do a review and let it go back to the person, so that the person himself, I will prompt him that, see, these are your skills, these are your core area of expertise, but you haven't highlighted them. So let's do that. Let the individual write his own resume. So I would not encourage to make your resume which is absolutely machine-led and only AI-led, because frankly, then that does not differentiate you, because the machine will tell you exactly the same keywords which it will tell Neil and Sarabjeet both. So both of us will get into the AI and say, okay, fine, give me the resume for maybe a web designer or for a leadership role or a business head role in a manufacturing industry. So the resume becomes exactly a Me Too resume for somebody else. So it doesn't differentiate. So that's the second part. Third, do not get into elaborating your responsibilities in the resume, but you must elaborate your achievements, because ultimately you're going to be hired for what you have achieved, not for what you have done as in terms of handled. So if you're focusing in your resume on what you are handling as responsibility, and if that's your elaboration, then it does not serve the purpose, because the prospective employer is going to want to know, what did you achieve? So, okay, if you're a web designer, what is it that was ultimately achieved in terms of your web designing skills, rather than you handling these kind of web designing projects? Or if you're in a leadership position, what is it that the team achieved under you in terms of, one, the team size, what is the measurable result that they brought in, and how did you improve? So in your resume, focus on your achievements and not on your responsibilities. And do not be repetitive in terms of your vocabulary. If you keep repeating the words continuously, and if the same words are being repeated throughout, it gets very disengaging. And the last piece is that make it very, very clean. There should be a lot of white space, bullet points. It should be very neat. It should be easy on the eye. These are some of the don'ts that you need to do.
So yeah, interesting really with CVs then, because sometimes you'll have a CV which has got a lot of gaps, and you'll find people have not spent long enough at their jobs. You think, hold on, surely that's a red flag.
Sure. So what happens in cases of where there are gaps? First of all, I would advise that, see, a gap can be a very natural thing. First of all, we ourselves as a candidate do not have to make the gap a very big thing. Because in our own minds, if we make the gap a very thing, that, because this is something which happens when people come to me and I'm coaching them, they say, oh, I had this gap of about 5.5 months. What do I do? Should I mention this in the resume or the CV or no? Or should I just cover it up with something? I said, no, if there is a gap, which is a natural gap, let it be the way it is. There is nothing big about it. This is more important is, what is it that you have understood about the pain point of the job and how you can provide a solution. That is more important, rather than just focusing that in my 18 years of experience, if I have had a 5.5 month gap, your complete focus and energy, if it goes to the 5.5 month gap, you will think only of that and you will not even perform well in the interview. So while writing a resume, if there is a gap, mention the gap as a natural one, but at the same time, focus a lot on what you are applying to. What is the kind of role? So if it's a role which is in supply chain or in sales, for example, if there is a sales head position and you're applying for that, try to understand what the role is, what the role entails, what is the pain point that they are looking for. And into your resume, get the focus onto how you achieved being a good sales leader rather than focusing on the gap. So if there is a gap that is being mentioned, if you do research on the company, the pain point, their mission, the goals, and the pain points of the job role, and then write a very strong pitch letter, which is a kind of a cover letter which is attached to your resume, and start your pitch letter by ensuring that you've understood and aligned very well with the mission and the goal of the company, and hence you are aligning your own career goal and the value that you bring. I think in terms of the recruiter or the prospective employer who's reading your pitch letter, or so-called, generally called cover letter, should be so oriented towards the employer that the person is motivated to meet you. And that gap is something which is maybe it's like, let me give you an example. If I had to ask you, if I had to give you 2 sticks, or if I had to give you 1 stick and it is kept on the floor, and I tell you that without touching the stick, Neil, how can you make this stick smaller? So without touching the stick, how do you make that smaller? By keeping a bigger stick next to it. Simple. The moment you keep a big stick next to the small stick, your stick becomes smaller. Similarly, the focus has to be not on the gap, which is the small stick, but it has to be on the value that you're getting to the. So engross yourself so much in the research, engross yourself so much in doing homework on the employer, and writing directly to the employer, attracting them to ensure that they listen to you And that gap becomes a very small thing because they see a lot of value in what you're getting, and be genuine about it.
But let's say that someone's just recently graduated as a web designer. It's going to be very difficult for them to stand out. What advice would you give to that person then?
So as a fresher, you come in, assuming you are 20 years by age, I would say you may not have work experience, means I'm saying an official work experience, professional work experience, you may not have, but you have 20 years of life experience, out of which you've spent good enough time in your college, in your academics, doing projects. And there are these transferable skills which are extremely useful, or soft skills. Skills like adaptability, skills like collaborative skills, skills like teamwork, skills like analysis, skills like being able to communicate, skills like presentation skills. Now, if you have excelled, what a fresher needs to do, rate yourself on each of these soft skills, the transferable skills, which have got nothing to do with work experience in a particular domain. You might be a web designer, but you have not yet worked officially with any organization or in the corporate. But at the same time, while you have been in college, while you have done your academics, you did projects. Now, in the projects, there were so many of your skills that you used to bring out the best of the web designing product or the service that you were delivering to whatever the academician had asked you to do or the teacher had asked you to do. How do you rate yourself on your all the skills in web designing? How is your creativity? How is your communication? How did you collaborate? How did you manage the project? How did you ensure that the other people are in the same page as you are? And if you were a project leader, present your leadership skills for that project and how you delivered on exactly on time and the best product which was well appreciated. So get deep into understanding what your strengths are, what your skills are, and how you are in a position to convert that when you are writing to writing to an employer positively, that these are the skills that I bring to the table. And when I'm looking at the job description of a web designer, I see that you are looking at these skills. Because Neil, you know what's happened is while you read job descriptions today, it is not only about the domain web designing. It is also about teamwork, collaboration, analytical ability, creativity, problem solving, communication skills, so many of them which are listed in the job descriptions. Focus on that and try and give success stories substantiating that you already possess those skills when you were in college.
Let's talk about interviews then. Why should I hire you? What would be the best response to that? How would you sort of prepare for that?
First of all, I've never advised people to attend any interview without in-depth research. And the in-depth research has to be really in-depth. It cannot be cursory research, just going through the job description, just going through the website. I encourage people that go through the website, first understand what the mission and the goal of the company is. Within the website also, you got to ensure that if there is a blog that you're reading and if there is a hyperlink within the blog, get inside that, because you might get a lot of cues about what the company is really wanting to achieve, and then coming to the role that you're applying for. So if it's a marketing manager role or a marketing head role, or if it's a project manager role, what is the pain of the project manager in that role? Now, how do you identify that? You got to ensure that you go onto the LinkedIn profile of people who are working with the company, in the leadership team, the HR, the people who are already in project management. Read their posts, read their profiles, try and make an assessment on your own as to what could be the possible pain point of that job. It is very important that when somebody is asking you, why should we hire you? It should be very clear to the interviewer that you as a candidate are a solution provider to my pain. Because every job has a pain. Web designing has a pain, project management has a pain, sales manager has a pain. If you are able to do research and able to list down that, okay, these are the kind of pain points I understand of this particular job role, and I can have proven successful success stories which demonstrate that, okay, I can solve your problem, then I'm the right candidate. So while devising the answer to why should we hire you, you must mention that I'm excited. I'm really excited because I feel that what you are looking for in terms of the role that you have advertised for or you are wanting to hire for, I bring in the skills which will solve the pain of that role. And saying that, establishing that, this is what I have understood of the role and the pain that the role offers, the pain point. So the deliverables of the pain point is something which I have understood. Is that correct? Assuming the interview gives you a nod, says yes, I think these are the areas we're looking at. Say then each of these areas, I rate myself on a scale of 1 to 10 at 9 or 9.5. And let me give you an example. When you are wanting, for example, in sales, as a sales manager, you're wanting somebody to retain customers. Now that's a pain of retaining customers. I have proven time and again that I have been able to retain customers because of the value I add and the kind of understanding I have of the customer's requirement. And let me give you an example. So giving one example on that one pain point. Like this, if there are three aspects that you've been able to identify of the job, focus on those areas and give them success stories and substantiate and demonstrate with real measurable results how you delivered successfully with each of those pain points. And that's the reason why when you show excitement that there is a match, and because you're going to create a win-win situation for the organization and yourself, you are the right candidate, and that is why you should be hired. You should be very confident about matching your solution providing ability to the pain that the job offers. And that's why it's going to be the best.
Yeah, and they always ask you about salary expectations. What's the best way to answer that? Obviously, you don't want to price yourself out of the market or undersell yourself.
So that's a very interesting and a very common question where, most of the people actually falter. So what are your salary expectations? First rule, that if salary has been mentioned in the job description, then you have a range. It will be mentioned as a range. Assuming it is not mentioned, first, I would advise that do not get into immediately mentioning a particular figure. That means immediately you mention that I expect X amount. But before you go for the interview, to answer this question, you must have in your mind a particular figure, assuming that figure is X that is being offered, and you have a figure which is slightly higher than what the job role entails. But you also got to take into consideration whether holistically the job prospects, the career prospects, the company, everything, it cannot be only money. So while answering this question, I am assuming that you have evaluated all the other parameters and taken a holistic view of that entire offering that is coming, and then you're coming to a salary question. So you're going to give an input that, okay, this is what I expect. So first, do not start with a particular figure, because it can happen that you may give a figure which might be either way beyond the budget of the company and you might just be discarded then and there. So first is, in your own mind, say that, okay, I think for this kind of a role where I'm applying and I'm appearing for an interview, when I'm asked this question about salary expectation, you have a figure in mind below which you're not going to go. So for example, you say that this is a figure A, which I will not compromise on. Below this, I will not go. So if somebody insists that, you please tell us what your expectation is, mention something like a range which is slightly higher than A. A is your expectation, is your expected figure below which you're not going to go. Add something to A and say that, okay, I will go from 20% to maybe 35% or 30% to 45% on my existing salary. If you're an existing working employee, give them a range. Giving a range reflects that you are flexible. It does not kind of end the conversation in a yes or no situation, because it leaves room for negotiation even for the interviewer to tell you that, okay, fine, you're saying 30 to 45%, but I think on what basis are you saying that? So you can always discuss and reiterate your value and keep it open. The interviewer might end up saying that, okay, fine, I think we can offer only maybe 28% or 32%. Somewhere you are in the range and you are going to be above than what you are expecting. Your minimum expectation was A, but you already mentioned a range which is slightly above your expectation, which is above A. So mention a range. First of all, do not mention a figure. Let's see if interviewer can give you a figure. You can say that you evaluated me. You've already seen my value, what I bring to the table. And I'm sure you also have something in mind. If you can tell me a range, let the range come from the interviewer's side. If it comes, if it doesn't come, then you have to mention a range rather than a particular exact one figure. And while the discussion also, keep it very open. And if there is objection from the other side that no, I think we cannot afford this, or we do not, at that time you have to mention or reiterate how you are bringing in value to that job in terms of solving the pain and being a solution provider, and highlight your uniqueness. So keep the dialogue open. Do not close it in terms of just saying this is the figure and I will not. Don't get emotional about it. And ultimately, there is an offer that is being made to you. Do not say a no immediately. Mull over. There's great wisdom in sleeping over it. So just say, okay, fine. And you feel that the offer that is being made to you is slightly lower than what you expected. Still, don't say no. Go home, sleep over it, ask for 24 hours to think. And then when you get up in the morning, you would have realized perhaps your perspective has changed because you would have taken a holistic view of all the aspects and the factors that the job is offering besides money, and you might want to still take it up, or you might not take it up. But my advice is do not say a yes or no then and there.
Yeah. Awesome. Sleep on it. Awesome. One question that springs to mind is they always ask you, where do you see yourself in 3 to 4 years' time? I really hate this question. I remember someone asked me that and I said, oh, well, I want your job, as it were. And I don't think that went well. What's the best sort of answering that question?
This is a very interesting question. Now, I'll tell you what. Frankly, after COVID, all of us have learned that life is, we knew life was uncertain, but I think we have seen the uncertainty life offers, right? We have seen companies also become very, very agile, very nimble-footed, short-term planning, and trying to get their feet. And if somebody says, where will you be in the next 3 to 5 years? The best way would be to mention that I would not want to say that I will be at a particular level in terms of position, but what I would want to know, what I would want to say is that I can assure you that I will continue to learn and evolve constantly. My consistent actions in the company are going to be that I learn, I evolve, and I contribute. That is something which I will consistently be doing. So if I'm moving ahead and if I know that I'm contributing, whether it is 3 years or 5 years, after 3 or 5 years, I would have evolved to such an extent that I can assure you I'm 100% with the kind of value I would bring to the job. I would be handling a much higher responsibility than what I'm handling currently when I start with you. So in 3 to 5 years, I know one thing for sure, I would be very evolved. I would be solving more problems. I would be a better solution provider. I would, the span of control of my responsibility would have increased, and you would have the confidence to give me that kind of responsibility, which has much more complex problems, because my goal is to become the best problem solver for your company, your role. So in 3 to 5 years, I would be at a level where I will be, you will be motivated to give me a higher responsibility.
I speak to a lot of startups. Is working for a startup a good career? Good career advice? Most startups do fail.
All right. So it depends on what kind of a startup, in what space. So startup has this, like everything in life, it has its pros and cons. When you're wanting to join a startup, you know that you are taking a calculated risk. So to reduce the risk, I would say do a lot of homework, especially in India, whether it is well funded or no. And you still know that even if it is well funded, it's ultimately a startup. It's an idea which is being generated. It may take off, it may not take off. But one will have to look at the plus side of joining a startup. You got to be very adaptable, very agile. You'll get to learn a lot. You will be doing a lot of things which are not necessarily only well structured and defined in your role. So if your personality is such that you are able to enjoy that crest and trough and the ups and downs of a startup, and have the wherewithal and the resilience to kind of, fall down, get up, and then rework your strategy, I think a startup which is well funded and is in a good space, which is growing, it could be IT led or it could be any idea which appeals, the risk could be worth taking, and you will learn a lot. So you take a startup role and the startup fails and you have to leave, doesn't matter. Pick it up as a learning, see what you learn from that, and that is what you should communicate while you are in interviews or on your resume also, that this is what I learned and this is what was an excellent experience which will stand me in good stead throughout life. And at the same time, if it was a very bitter experience, very bad experience, fine, that's a learning too. So what you learned is that what you will not do in the future. Take that also as a learning. So I would still say that a startup is not a complete no-no. You got to do a lot of homework, see what kind of idea, what industry, what segment, and whether they are well funded or not, and then take a call.
What do you think of moonlighting then? So I work for a startup in the weekend. I work on my own project.
Yeah, so till the time, it will vary from company to company. And if it is a norm with the company that, okay, there should be no moonlighting, no projects, etc., and you've signed a bond, then it becomes unethical. At the same time, there are people who have coached also who take up projects over weekends, and they have been very transparent with the company and drawn very good boundaries, saying that my work will always remain my priority. But yeah, it's life. So somebody needs money, somebody needs exposure to some aspect. And if you've taken up projects which are sometimes moonlighting projects, which are you are not getting an opportunity in your existing role, but you enjoy doing something and you're doing it. And if it's not really kind of disturbing the current structure, that's fine. That's fine.
In your sort of 20 years of doing this, and what's like the best piece of career advice you can give our listeners?
So my advice would be very, very important to have a goal. Very important. Without a career goal, that it has to be a goal which is very well defined. Without a career goal, we will not be really able to fully utilize our potential and explore our potential. So first is, I would say, you must have a goal. Second, you must have that faith and burning desire to achieve the goal. Without fueling the burning desire, there's no point in having a goal. But if you don't have a goal, it's a non-starter. So first is have a goal. Second, have a burning desire, which is going to fuel the momentum which you're going to be there. And you got to be consistent with your habits and action. There is no other substitute, according to me. If you have a goal, if you have an action plan, and if you are having a burning desire with consistently taking action, learning, fine-tuning, again learning, falling down, getting up, falling down, showing up every day, but moving towards that goal progressively, I think you are there. So my advice would be, do not start a career without a goal. Yeah, your goals could evolve, your goals could be fine-tuned, but have a goal and keep monitoring as to what you're progressing towards. Without that, we will just be like a ship which has just left, has got no destination, no captain on that, and we know what will happen to the ship. So I think that's very important for me.
Do you think people still want careers then? The traditional company working for the 9-to-5 grind, as it were.
No, Neil, that has changed quite a lot. In fact, Today the times are different. People do not believe in sticking around to a company for that 35, 30 years, what used to be there traditionally. At the same time, I always believe there is nothing like right or wrong. Within the same organization, if you're getting opportunities to try out different kind of projects and roles, which are honing your skills, different skills at different times, that's okay too. But primarily, people are because the market is so dynamic, things are so dynamic, people are wanting to shift their jobs to ensure that they pick up new skills. And because there is an aspiration to achieve some things a little faster in life, unlike earlier, people would say 50, 55, 60 and all that. People here, the younger generation wants to achieve some things faster. At the same time, they are much more creative. So there is a burning desire in them to try out something new. So currently, as I have seen it, people don't spend much time in one particular job. The only thing what they should do is they should spend enough time to pick up a skill where they have been able to effectively contribute, Neil. That's very important, because it shouldn't happen that you just join and then suddenly, at a drop of a hat, there's another job that's very attractive and you pick that job up. What's happening with that is you've not fulfilled your desire to contribute to the company. Neither the company has seen that kind of contribution from you. So it's not really kind of seen the value that you're getting holistically. And then you midway only suddenly, just because there was an attractive job, you moved. That would be a wrong thing to do. I would not advise that. But yeah, to pick up different skills depending on which organization you are working for. Today, organizations are also creating that kind of environment that they get exposure, the employees get exposure to different kinds of projects, different kind of skill development. So companies are also aware of this trend and they are an effort. But to answer your question, yeah, so things have changed. It's no longer that traditional 9 to 5 and those 30, 35 years and retire at 55, 60, that kind of a thing.
And what you thought of, what your thoughts on the work-life balance then? Because obviously people are now working remotely. People are working around the world. I'm sure there's someone's listening to this on a beach in Bali while working on a website. It's like the lines are blurring now.
Yeah, work-life balance, especially with the kind of hybrid work culture, partly working from home, partly working from office, people have started adapting to that, and the demand for work-life balance has become more. In fact, recently, I think I was just reading yesterday or day before in LinkedIn, there was a beautiful article where they had surveyed and they found that the importance people give now, employees, while selecting a company, is 42%, which is the highest to work-life balance as compared to the salary and even the job profile. So it has moved up the ladder where work-life balance has become very important. To create that work-life balance, it varies from individual to individual, but I think companies have also adapted a little. Many of the companies have identified certain roles which are completely can be done work from home and maybe just once a week meeting, those kind of roles, and that model is working reasonably okay. Some roles, of course, which cannot be done from work from home, still continue to be that way. But at the same time, for an individual, I think I would say, if you have divided your life into different goals, and you have your personal goals also, which is could be your relationship goals and your family goals and your personal development goals, and you want time for that, I think it's important to take that into consideration while you are either shifting a job or joining a company. And slowly you will have to ensure that your leader also is aware of your priorities, because each one of us will have our priorities, and today companies do respect an individual's priorities on the personal side also. And importantly, one has to develop that habit of saying no and drawing up boundaries and being very strong in your value proposition. So there is no compromise on the work, on the contribution that you're making while you're trying to establish a work-life balance. But at the same time, you also need a work-life balance to be maintained. So if you're really diligently putting in the best work and trying to see you're productive, giving suggestions as to how the company can be productive during the office hours, and drawn up boundaries, and you've learned to say no, and at the same time you are the best in what you do, companies will still value you and you will be able to have your work-life balance.
Because I was reading about the boss of Infosys. He was asked how many hours should a person work in a week. He was saying that young people should be ready to work 70 hours a week to help country development. I think he said, this is what I read from the BBC website. This is what he said on a podcast. India's work productivity is one of the lowest in the world. Unless we improve our work productivity, we will not be able to compete with those countries that have made tremendous progress. So therefore, my request is that our youngsters must say, this is my country. I'd like to work 70 hours a week. Your thoughts, please.
Working 70 hours per week, my view is that it's not necessary. It is, frankly, if your productivity is low during office hours, then you are ending up doing that. So I wouldn't generalize it, but I think if your leadership is able to put in processes, systems, and there is a lot of goal orientation, and your productivity is the core area of focus, and you are able to be productive, then I don't see any reason why you should be putting in reasonable hours rather than putting in 70 hours in a week necessarily to achieve something. Yeah, so there could be times when there is a requirement and you put it up. It could be much more. You could put up 12 to 14 hours in a day, but those could be just need based. But making it a practice and making it a norm, I don't agree with that.
Just going back to the interviews, let's say I do a great interview and I don't get the job. It could be, quite depressing, as it were. How do you deal with that? You've researched the hell out of this company. You've given great answers. You've asked great questions. You've come across great, but you didn't get the job.
It happens. So first of all, life, this is a life's lesson. We will have certain things under our control and certain things which are not under our control. So I always, when I'm coaching people, I tell them that first, let's make a list of, so you're having some problems, but within the problem, tell me what is under your control and what is not under your control. Let's kind of bifurcate the two. So in an interview situation, something which is not under your control, in spite of your best efforts, there could be the sad part is many times you do not know what is the reason for your not getting selected in spite of you performing well. It could be a candidate who just was a notch better and maybe at a low price suddenly, and they didn't even consider coming back to you and you got rejected. We don't know. Means I'm saying the reasons could be many. So how I would say to deal with it is, first of all, developing resilience is important. So take it only as a learning. If you have been rejected, I would say feel proud of yourself that you did very well. Make a list of all the answers that you gave and the way you answered them, and if there was anything that you felt could be improved and can be a learning for the next interview, and write a nice mail and a thank you mail to the interviewer, because let's accept it, we have a long life and we have got a long career span. We don't know when we will meet somebody once again, either in the same company or in another company. So write a nice thank you mail that this was nice meeting you. It was a good learning experience. Yes, at this point in time, I have not been selected. You have your reasons. Fine. Wish you all the best with whoever you have selected. But in the future, if there is anything and if we need to meet again, I would love to be in touch with you. Is that okay with you? So try and establish a contact and a relationship and make the best of that opportunity. So life has given you a lemon, make a lemonade out of it. Make the best of it, establish a relationship and see what you learned out of it, and move on. I would say move on to the next one immediately, because what you would have learned from that interview through the interaction could be that, yeah, these are the kind of questions that are new questions which I had not expected. Still, I answered them well. So you will be far better prepared with this experience for the next interview. So the focus has continuously got to be on the learning and not on the rejection, because they not rejected you, they have rejected the entire, I'm saying, the suitability aspect, and with relative comparison to somebody else. That's about it. It's not you. So one doesn't have to feel bad about it.
But what's the, let's say I don't get a job after a year, what's the cutoff? What is there a cutoff point, you think, after a year or 2 years trying to find a job that you graduated in?
Okay, so if you're not getting a job for a year or two, and for whatever be the reason, it can affect your self-esteem, it can emotionally be damaging. What I suggest is that we must see, life is tough, and there is going to be experiences in life, but we got to learn from every experience. So if for whatever reason, maybe the time is not right and we are not able to crack any interview and it's been 1 year, we've not got anything, I would say take up freelance-based projects. There are freelance projects which you can take up. They could be paying not the kind of money that you may expect, but what it will do, it will keep you honing your skills consistently in spite of you not having the job. So there will come a time when you will be appearing for interviews and you are going to be answering this question that, it's been 1 year, you've not got a job as yet. So to present it positively in an interview situation, you can always say, I took up these projects and I'm very proud to say that in spite, I understood that there could be reasons, it could be timing, that I did not really get the kind of job I wanted, but I did not stop there. It shows positivity that I took up some special projects and this is where I delivered. So this is what I delivered as results. Showcase what you delivered in the projects also. That really presents you in a very positive light, and that is what is an attitude which most of the employers will want. That, okay, you did not give up and you accepted the situation, but you did not kind of give up. And that is something which you will carry forward to the next job when you join them. Present it like that. So take up some freelance based.
In terms of the CV itself, and is that not outdated now? Because obviously, if someone's applying for jobs, what a lot of the companies will do now, they just go on your social media and check out what you're posting on Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, etc., etc.
Yeah, I think that's quite true. I would not rate so much. I don't give so much of importance to a CV or a resume now. There is LinkedIn and there is a lot of, because these are all, social media is an active platform. You are positioning yourself as a brand by the very fact that you are on LinkedIn or on social media, Facebook, wherever. And the kind of posts you do, the kind of interactions you do, my encouragement to all people who are seeking jobs is to directly network directly and be very proactive in your job search rather than just waiting to have a resume posted online on any job portal or something. Make a list of 10 employers, target those 10 employers, start doing the research, start writing to each of these employers as to what you've understood of those pain points. And again, present yourself as a person who wants to come and understand a little more, land up with informational interviews, and present yourself as a solution provider. That's how you will be proactively getting a job rather than depending on a CV. And because CV's importance is going down, there is no doubt about it. 110%. Today, I just see your LinkedIn profile, and if I find that, I just look at one or two of your posts and interactions, and the way you come across to me on social media, I will call you. That's it. I don't necessarily need to see your resume per se. Yeah, you may come and give me your resume for when you come for an interview, but that's not the starter. So to answer your question, the importance of CV is definitely going down.
Yeah, how would you reflect on your career then?
My career, I reflect my career as a very evolved one. I'm very grateful. I started in sales in the pharma industry. Then I moved in sales again to the media and entertainment industry, and I reached a leadership position. I was at the president level with Z. I was leading a team of 400 people, enjoying myself. And I did develop a lot of new, unique ideas when I was presenting my sales propositions. Then as I said, I'm the kind of person who likes to do something which is out of the box, very unique. And I'm very grateful that I got the opportunity to get into talent hunt and start my own journey as an entrepreneur, because that's something which I'm very proud of, that I have my own organization. Today, it's a very well-established brand, Aspiration, as an organization. And then from there, I transferred, because mentoring is something which came very naturally to me, always, even when I was leading at the age of 27, 28, when I was just leading a team of, say, 40, 50 people, I would enjoy mentoring all these people. And the biggest fulfillment I would get would be that. So I have now moved last 7 years into mentoring and career coaching, which is giving me the best fulfillment. There is no better fulfillment. I create social media videos. I'm having huge amount of following on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, everywhere. And it's also because I'm coming up with something which is very, very practical, original, experiential. And I love to see people get results in their career because of maybe a mentoring idea that I gave them and I handheld them. So as far as my career is concerned, I'm extremely satisfied and grateful to God that I got these opportunities to use my intrinsic skills, which are inborn, which generally people wouldn't get. So I'm very grateful that I'm using my active listening ability, my patience, and so many other qualities which I have, and showing up every day, and I'm able to touch so many people's life. So it's a huge fulfillment from the career point of view, personally.
What's been the highlight of your career so far? If you can talk about one particular highlight or one particular issue or story.
So establishing career coaching, frankly, in a manner which is very authentic and very genuinely establishing it and adding to people's life has been very fulfilling. I've been able to, in spite of the fact that I come from a background which is from earlier from a sales pharma and then going into sales in the media and recruitment, media and entertainment, and then moving into career coaching, being able to establish myself as a career coach where people approach me and I'm able to look at all sectors, whether it is manufacturing, IT, etc., without my own domain knowledge being deep enough, I'm able to still fundamentally guide each of my coaches, if I may call it, is something very, very satisfying for me. So I'm in a position to give them solutions as an objective outsider with my practical experience of the last 40 years. And I consider it as a very big differentiator and a highlight for my career. So that's what it is.
Yeah, you mentioned mentoring. Who helps you then? Who's your mentor?
So there have been people who I've learned from. While I was with, I would say when I was with Indian Express, I had very good bosses from whom I learned at that point in time. Then I had, when I was with India Today also, those organizations. And at the same time, I have been very hugely influenced because of my own self-learning ability by Tony Robbins. I really admire him, Anthony Robbins, and I follow him aggressively. I think his principles, what he has taught, I've really imbibed them. I have worked on them, and I'm that kind of a person who believes a lot in reading. So I have, if you were to ask me who has really mentored me, everybody has contributed to my life, my team members also and my bosses also. But the biggest has been my own ability to be able to consistently keep learning and personally evolving which is means I'm the kind of person who never stops evolving. So every day before I sleep at night, I will write down in my journal what I learned new today. Without that,
Okay.
I don't get sleep. So
All right.
I'm my own mentor to a very great extent, I would say. And across my career, yeah, all my bosses have in their own way contributed, and my team members also have learned. So it's my own ability to, that fire to learn something new has really brought me to this stage where I am.
What did you sort of, what's the key takeaway from Tony Robbins?
Change the meaning, change your life. That's the key takeaway. So what Tony Robbins has really taught everybody to do is look at the same thing differently, and the emotion control which you can have. So whether you're being grateful, so even in every adversity, how can you look at the seed of an equivalent benefit is a very, very big takeaway. So in every adversity when I face, I really have been able to get my mind to such a setting that I look at what is it in this adversity which is the biggest benefit for me as a person, whether it is building my character or whether it is, I shift my focus easily. So that is what Tony Robbins has taught. And it has taken me years to reach this level, but I think I give it to him that he's done it very, very beautifully. So Awaken the Giant Within and so many other of his books and what I've read has really kind of helped. So change the meaning, change your life. So look at a situation and you should have the capacity to attach a different perspective to that same situation, which is in a positive manner. And so you are aligned to that whatever power there is, and you can make a good decision.
What will interviews and careers look like in like 50 years' time then? Obviously with the AI and ChatGPT.
So I think technology, it's anybody's guess, but what I can guess, what I feel is that technology would take over to a very great extent. I think the element of the human element will reduce. It will never vanish. It can never do that because ultimately it's machine. But I think the way we are seeing it now, there will be a lot of involvement in the AI part, and interviews will be very, very machine led, and the part will come to the as far as the human element is concerned, the analysis part, the assessment part, the human aspect part, assessing a candidate will become less, but it will become so focused because with the process that the machines would give us, we will be in a position to really take very good decisions, even from the human angle, which I'll use my own human mind to assess a candidate. But by the time he reaches me, I think he would have gone through so many of assessment tests and something which would be very unique, which will help me take the right decision. So that's what I feel.
Last question for people who want more information on you and what you do. How do they get in touch?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Neil. So anybody who wants anything on mentoring or career coaching with me can write directly to me on my email ID, which is sarabjeet@aspirationjobs.com. It is SARABJEET, Sarabjeet@aspirationjobs.com, which is ASPIRATIONJOBS.com. They can reach out to me and I have a team. We'll have an initial talk and I'll be very happy to help.
Sarabjeet, thank you for coming on the show today. I really, really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, Neil. Thank you for having me on the show. I really enjoyed it. I think some of the very interesting questions you asked, and these are very pinpointed questions, very relevant, and I'm sure our listeners will gain value, and I hope and trust your show does extremely well. And wishing you all the best, Neil, and thank you for this opportunity to share my thoughts.
I wish you all the best. Cheers, mate. Thank you. Thanks to Sarabjeet for coming on the show today. That's the end of the show, and if you liked it, please leave a rating and review of the show. Just search for the Indian Startup Show on iTunes, Spotify, and Good Pods. Thank you, and goodbye.